In the quiet town of West Pittston, Pennsylvania, the American dream turned into a nightmare. Between 1974 and 1989, the Smurl family endured one of the most disturbing and violent hauntings ever recorded. This isn't just another ghost story. This is the Smurl haunting, a case so dark, even Ed and Lorraine Warren struggled to confront it. From scratches on the walls to the smell of decay, the story takes us inside a home where reality seemed to warp. So get ready to turn off the lights and brace yourself for some terrifying tales, because we're about to delve into a haunting that will chill you to the bone. In 1973, Jack and Janet Smurl, along with their daughters, and Jack's parents moved into a modest 2-story duplex in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. It wasn't a large house, nor did it have a particularly interesting history. It was just a modest residence split down the middle. Jack and Janet's daughters shared a bedroom, while the elderly couple occupied a separate bedroom in the adjacent section of the duplex. However, within a year, normalcy gave way to an escalating series of unsettling events. Initially, these disturbances manifested as minor annoyances: random scratches on the walls, unexplained water stains, and tools disappearing, only to reappear in peculiar locations. These incidents were subtle enough to dismiss as quirks of an aging house. But this was just the beginning. As time went on, the frequency and intensity of the disturbances increased dramatically. One day, strange odors began permeating the house. The smell of decaying flesh, mixed with the stench of sulfur, hung heavy in the air. The presence of these smells coincided with the start of the haunting. Sometimes the smell of rotting meat or a corpse would fill the house. Other times it would reek of brimstone and fire. As the days passed, the sounds intensified. Footsteps echoed through the halls, even when the house was empty. Loud bangs reverberated from the walls, and at times the entire house seemed to shake as if burdened by some unseen weight. The once comforting creaks of an old house transformed into sinister whispers in the darkness. But the auditory disturbances were only half of what the family was experiencing. The temperature in the house started to fluctuate wildly. One moment it would be uncomfortably chilly, and the next the heat would rise inexplicably. These sudden shifts weren't just noticeable, they were bone-chilling. There were distinct cold spots in the house, areas where an icy chill seemed to linger no matter the season. As the haunting escalated, the family's pets became casualties of the unseen forces at play. One night, the family's German Shepherd, which had always been friendly and gentle, was found whimpering and shaking in a corner. It had been lifted from its bed and thrown violently against a wall. The dog's normally wagging tail was injured, a clear testament to the haunting's violent turn. By now, it wasn't just objects that were being moved. The family themselves were experiencing physical assaults. One night, Janet awoke to find herself floating above her bed. Her husband and daughters were present, yet they appeared as though they were lying on the ceiling. She recalled the feeling of being pulled and twisted in midair, a sensation she likened to being inside a washing machine. Another night, their 7-year-old daughter was dragged out of bed by an invisible force. Their 9-year-old daughter began seeing apparitions, including a cloaked figure standing at the foot of their bed. She would see strange symbols painted on walls and doors. Yet despite all this, the family soldiered on, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos. Jack continued working, and Janet took care of the children. It was during this time that the smells really started to intensify. The family described it as the smell of a dead body or a corpse. The climax of the haunting came when Jack's mother, who had health issues, suffered a heart attack. They believed that the entity deliberately induced the attack. Now the horror was not confined to their home. Jack began experiencing strange occurrences at work. He would hear his name being called out, see fleeting faces in the mirrors, and feel an icy cold grip on his shoulder. As the haunting reached its crescendo, it became evident that their home had become a prison, trapping them in a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. With the situation spiraling out of control, the family reached out to various sources of help, starting with local priests. But the entity seemed impervious to their interventions. Undeterred, they continued seeking help until they were referred to Ed and Lorraine Warren, renowned paranormal investigators. The Warrens arrived at the house and began their investigation. Lorraine Warren, known for her clairvoyant abilities, immediately sensed multiple demonic presences. She described 4 distinct beings haunting the house, each with its own sinister nature. The first was an old woman whom Lorraine identified as Helen Acton, a former resident who had passed away in the house. While not inherently evil, Helen's spirit was described as mischievous and a bit nosy. The second entity was a young girl named Kathy. Lorraine sensed a lot of anger and pain coming from her, suggesting a troubled past. The third presence was a dark, silent man. Lorraine felt he might have been a former police officer, possibly involved in illegal activities. And finally, the fourth being was the most disturbing. It was a powerful demon that Lorraine referred to as the Master, sensing control over the other 3 entities. Lorraine believed this demon was the root of the family's torment. Once the Warrens had identified the entities, they began the process of confronting and removing them. They conducted interviews, recorded strange sounds, and captured images of shadowy figures using special cameras. The entity became increasingly agitated by their presence, moving objects around the house and shaking beds. Once the camera equipment of one investigator was completely destroyed, the Warrens decided to proceed with a ritualistic exorcism, although they encountered resistance. The Catholic Church was hesitant to get involved due to the complex nature of the case. They agreed to assist, but only allowed the use of a lower level of exorcism. Despite the limited scope, the exorcism was a harrowing experience. During the process, the entity grew furious, causing the priest to fall and injuring one of the Warrens' assistants. Following the initial exorcism, the hauntings seemed to subside somewhat, but the family continued to experience strange phenomena. The Warrens returned for further investigations and ultimately arranged for more exorcisms. However, these efforts proved to be equally challenging. Throughout the ordeal, the family faced ridicule from skeptics who questioned their sanity. They were subjected to criticism and accusations of fabricating the hauntings for attention or financial gain. The family, however, remained steadfast in their belief that they were genuinely under attack from a supernatural force. As the situation continued to escalate, the Warrens decided to involve the media. Hoping for public support, they knew that widespread attention might force the church to take more decisive action. Unfortunately, this decision backfired. Instead of gaining sympathy, the family became the target of ridicule. Many people accused them of making the whole thing up for publicity. Despite the negative publicity, the family's torment did not cease. If anything, it intensified. The entities seemed to lash out against those who doubted their story, targeting them with even greater violence. Furniture levitated, heavy objects flew through the air, and disembodied voices whispered accusations, fueling the mystery and controversy surrounding the haunting. During the height of the media frenzy, the family published their story in a book titled The Haunted. Co-written with journalist Robert Curran, the book provided a detailed account of their terrifying experiences. But it did little to quell the skeptics. The critics continued to attack them, further isolating the family. In the end, it was the family's resolve that truly stood the test of time. They stuck together, supporting each other through the terrifying ordeal. In 1988, the Smurls made the decision to move out of the house, hoping for a fresh start elsewhere. But the entities seemed determined not to let them go. Even in their new home, they experienced similar terrifying events. The entity followed them, continuing its relentless torment. Finally, in 1989, after years of relentless haunting, the Smurls arranged for a final exorcism. This time, they brought in a team of 15 priests led by Father Ralph Diorio. After a lengthy ceremony, the priests succeeded in driving the entity out of the house. In the aftermath of the exorcism, the hauntings ceased. The Smurls were finally able to live in peace, free from the clutches of the entity. However, the question of whether the haunting was real or imagined continued to be debated. Skeptics argued that the family had created the whole ordeal to seek attention or financial gain.